In our walk of life, there are so many different types of people. We all have unique differences and similarities. Preferences and personal ideals run a wide range of human existence. And that is no different in the world of transgender people. Decades ago, the world was only vaguely aware of two aspects of transgender people. That was trans men and trans women. Any other variation we have today either didn't have a name yet or just wasn't recognized, even by the queer community itself. Now, in the present day, we've been able to identify people more specifically and clearly. While these labels are fluid, they have developed under the transgender umbrella. Hi, I'm your host, Daze, she, they, and I will be your guide going through the many identities that fall under the trans umbrella. The trans umbrella terminology began when it was created by San Francisco therapist by the name of Luana Rogers in 1994. It was originally created with what are now outdated terms, but the basic concept still follows suit. The umbrella signifies the base term of transgender, pertaining to and playing a part in the identities it covers. It was also helpfully used in a Human Rights Commission report that was drafted to educate city officials in San Francisco on creating a civil rights ordinance. It was titled Investigation into the Discrimination Against Transgender People, and it was a very interesting read. So what does the transgender umbrella look like today, and what does each term mean? Starting from the very top is obviously transgender. This main umbrella has covered trans men and trans women since the very start. These are the most well-known and recorded identities under the umbrella. They mean a full change from one end of the binary gender spectrum to the other. Trans men and women are notably born with sexual characteristics that do not match their personal gender, and they strive to change themselves to be in a body that is more comfortable and that aligns with their identity. The two other identities that are considered under the binary side of the umbrella are brother boy and sister girl. These identities are used by Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. They consider themselves to have male or female spirits that take on the traditional roles of each. Another older term that is considered under the side of the umbrella is transsexual males and females. It was a term under the original umbrella designed by Luana Rogers in 1994, and it is fairly outdated today but worth mentioning solely for a tie-in in a later video. Today, these terms are considered under their own binary side of the umbrella. Non-binary is the next identity under the trans umbrella. It is considered an umbrella term of its own for many of the other identities. Non-binary people identify with their gender as exhibiting both either female and male characteristics, identifying with all or multiple genders, or identifying with neither. They mostly don't fit into the traditional gender spectrum of dividing people into only two groups. They are also the umbrella with the largest group of identities beside the overarching term of transgender. The next two identities could either fall within the genderqueer category or just under non-binary itself. The first of these is agender. Agender don't identify with any gender at all, and they mostly exist outside of the gender spectrum altogether. They're also the group that will use a term called neopronouns, which are simply pronouns used outside of the base set, including he, her, and them. These pronouns could look like it, its, ze, her, he, em, and many more. The other is androgynous or androgyny. This identity combines both aspects of traditional feminine and masculine qualities and behaviors. Those presenting in this manner can intentionally blur or subvert the normal expectations. They are often ambiguous and cannot be told apart from one gender binary to another. This presentation is more stylistic and less purposefully confusing, unlike a gender identity, which we'll cover later. Genderqueer is another umbrella term underneath non-binary. They don't really follow any binary gender traditions. The term was also a term used for political activism during the civil rights and gay rights movements. Genderqueer people may identify as a combination, neither, or different genders entirely from the traditional binary. Identities under genderqueer can be either fluid or static, with some people's gender changing from time to time. This is why those that fall into this category also may prefer neopronouns. Transmasc and transfemme people identify under this category, or under non-binary, but they lean towards one end of the gender spectrum or the other. Our host, Wesley, is actually a perfect example, where they are non-binary, but they have a more masculine leaning, placing him vaguely in between non-binary and transgender men. For others, there may be a more variance to where they may be placed on the scale. Bigender, people who can experience a shifting gender between two or more genders at a time, or at different times. So they can feel or change from non-binary and transgender or cisgender one time frame and then shift to another in the next. The difference between this one and gender fluid is the experience of multiples at the same time, where gender fluid just tends to shift from one different identity to the other. Gender neutral is similar and sometimes is used synonymously with the term agender. It is a lack of conforming to any gender binary, sometimes solely due to a lack of interest for the traditional subsets. They are neutral because they don't mind or care for either or any kind of gender expression. This is often expressed by using they/them pronouns or sometimes neopronouns. Gender nonconforming, or gender variant, are terms for people whose gender's expression don't align with the expectations of social gender norms. This one can go along with any gender expression, but could be on its own as well. This is also technically a term for butch women and feminine men in some circles. Gender fluid people are flexible, and their gender can change over time. This could mean a fluctuation at any time, whether it's day to day, week to week, or at random times and moments. They can fluctuate from cisgender, non-binary, transgender, and anything in between. These changes can be caused by the environment, mood, personal feelings, and more. Gender flux is where the intensity of a gender expression can change. For example, someone who presents masculine could either experience their gender intensely at some times, or not at all in others. It's like a thermometer in a sense. Sometimes it's at 0, and sometimes it's at Arizona temperatures. Genderless people can technically fall under their own umbrella entirely outside of the transgender one. This is because it's a complete lack of gender. It's similar and can sometimes be used interchangeably with agender, but it's a more specific way to say they don't align with any gender whatsoever. They simply don't land on the spectrum. Third gender is what many would call the secret third thing. This gender expression is actually used by societies that recognize more than two genders in their culture and history. It can also mean different things to different people, making it a bit of a conceptual term. Polygender is a term for those who experience more than one gender identity at any given time. This means they could be both masculine and feminine leaning at the same time, non-binary and feminine leaning at the same time, or all three at once, as well as multiple other amounts of other combinations. This one is unique due to its multifaceted presentation. Pangender is a similar umbrella term, meaning one who identifies with all genders at once. This is slightly different than polygender, as it is identifying with everything possible. It isn't just one or two they identify with, it's everything, giving them a pretty wide scope of gender. The term genderfuck is one that might be new to both of us, but it's one that definitely stands out from the rest. This is the one that is similar to androgyny, but the difference for this one is that it is to be purposefully confusing in their gender presentation to others. These are the identities who are 3 possums in a trench coat, the rat piloting one through the hair, and the soul piloting a meat suit kind of identities. What are they really? No one knows, and they aren't going to tell you. Ending with the genderqueer umbrella, demigender is our next umbrella term. This one actually stretches over all of the different gender identities as well. As the prefix suggests, it means they are partially that gender identity. So, there can be demi-men, also known as demi-boy, demi-women, also known as demi-girl, demi-non-binary, demi-fluid, demi-flux, and more. So, for example, they can mainly identify as cisgender but be demi-non-binary as well, or fully non-binary but be demi-woman as well. They can also just identify as demi-gender itself, regardless of their sex at birth. Then last but not least, we have a couple honorable mentions for identities that are adjacent or similar to the description of transgender, or the ones that were used to fall under the trans umbrella. Drag existed long before the queer community ever gave its place today, but it has also been used as a forum for transgender people to explore their identities in a safe and welcoming environment, as well as a highly creative one. Drag itself is a performance art, yet it was originally put under the umbrella due to its connections to the transgender community. Intersex is another identity that is less of a gender expression and more of a different expression of chromosomes. Intersex people are born with a different mix of genes from XY and XX chromosomes, some showing up as XXY, XYY, and other variations. Many people who are intersex aren't even aware of this difference until later in life, sometimes not at all unless they go through specific genetic testing. Intersex people are not inherently transgender because they were already born that way. Some are even forcefully transitioned by doctors at a very young age, and more often than not to the female presentation, due to a sordid history with the medical community. However, some intersex people can and do exhibit different identities under the transgender umbrella. They can personally choose to transition fully to an all-masculine presentation, all-feminine presentation, or any of the other identities under the umbrella. They are indeed not inherently transgender by default, but most definitely worthy of the protection and notoriety all their own. Two-spirit is an identity that is solely cropped up within the Native American community, and this identity is not one derived from male or female, but another gender entirely within the community. They can inhabit different roles in work roles, gender roles, and spiritual sanctions as well as their relationships. They were often believed among the Lakota, Mojave, Crow, Cheyenne, and others to bring luck in love and be able to bless others with love. Most communities have a word for different variations in their own languages. This means two-spirit is also another umbrella term of sorts. Cross-dressers are a special mention mainly for the overlap between the communities. Cross-dressing, unlike drag, is a constant form of presentation and dressing up in clothing different to that of your sex's traditional gender expectations. That is a long-winded way to say that someone who is born female and identifies as female will cross-dress by wearing masculine clothing or vice versa. I admittedly don't know a lot about the community outside of how it's been portrayed by the media in the past, so it's definitely something worth looking farther into for a future video. And finally, the last honorable mention is questioning. As the name implies, this is an identity anyone can don while they are working on figuring out what term works best for them. This allows anyone the freedom to try out different aspects of every identity to find out what works well for them. It is more or less, and pardon the pun here, a transitional phase. Yet it provides some breathing room for those who don't want to define themselves in any particular way yet, or to have time to put the pieces of the gender puzzle together. So, those were all of the identities and a little bit about each of them that exist under the transgender umbrella. There are many more terms that are subcategories and integrated into parts of the community. So if there are any I missed today, leave a comment on which one you'd like to see us cover. There are a wide scope of expressions and gender identities out there, making the world a beautiful and colorful place. You can also check out our other playlists on the channel for 101, current event review, studies, history, interviews, and more. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. Stay proud, my trans siblings, and stick with us. See ya!